But really, if I don't get annoyed with a man in a book, who would I be? Like, witch of the flesh indeed. Literally nothing makes sense except for the cannibalism. Naturally, again, because she's a girl's girl, she pushes that bitch into a pond with a bunch of fish. They were roommates. Well, he hates the English, he's Scottish, he's huge. Hello, welcome back. It's been a while. It's been like 2 months, almost 3, I think. I don't actually know. Oh God, wait. I did something really bad. I did something not smart. Better, because now I can see my notes, which kind of needed, believe it or not, because there's a lot. We're here. We're gonna go through a great many books today, and by a great many, there's 12 of them. If you can see my little pile here, there's a lot of books. There's how many? 6 physical books, even though most of my books I read on my Kindle. I haven't changed. What can I say? It may be 2026 and supposedly a whole new year, but I haven't changed. And I still read mostly on my Kindle. Anyway, we should probably just get started because 12 books is quite a bit. I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a while. Low key, I felt like I didn't read enough in January because I only read 4 books. So I was like, oh, I can't make like a whole video about 4 books. So maybe I'll do every couple months. And I was like, but that doesn't make any sense, right? It makes more sense if I do like a video every quarter, right? Like that math, it makes sense. So that's what I think I'm going to be doing. But then, you know, it's the 22nd of April. I do hope this is going to go out this weekend because I won't have time to do this any other time. Not gonna lie. Guys, I'm graduating. I'm graduating on next week, next Tuesday. I get my master's. She's so cool. She's about to be incredible. We need to finish this before graduation. I love Gusterion. It looks a little bit terrifying right now. He has been reading everything with me. He's my best friend. I'm currently reading a really exciting arc for Seek the Traitor's Son. That's what it's called. I keep on getting the name wrong, but it's Veronica Roth, which is crazy. I've got another arc that we're going to talk about that was also absolutely insane. Oh, that is a paper that flew by my window. But Veronica Roth, I haven't read Divergent, by the way. Never read them. Don't think I ever will, to be completely honest with you. But I did read When Among Crows, and I talked about it, and I really enjoyed it. So, and I'm really enjoying this one. So great things. Also, it's literally so warm today. Anyway, I probably should start. Do you like my new wall? I rejaggle. This is Hero. I had to make sure there's Hero, and you can't see her, but like over there is Gideon. I really like my wall. Let's start. Anyway, January books. The first book I read this year, I was like, you know what I don't do often? Read classics. I think the only other classic I have read since I've been like actually actively reading stuff is Carmilla. So like we need to mix this up. So I read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley because I wanted to watch the movie and I wanted to be educated. Great movie, by the way. I really enjoyed it. I think the changes that were made were good changes. I have my notes here. You can't see it. This is my laptop's here. But it was great. I can see why it's a classic. It wasn't necessarily for me because Victor Frankenstein, respectfully, was a little bit of a wuss. And he kind of pissed me off. He was such a drama queen. The fact that like he created this monster and then he took one look at it and was like, oh, and then he just lay there and was sick for like at least 6 months, probably more than that. Like he was just there. But anyway, he was really dramatic to me and definitely a man. So great for you, Victor, I guess. Imagine being able to like be just so sad because what you have created is ugly. And then you just lay there and be sick for like, I don't know, 6 years, however long he stayed there. I will say though, ever since I've read that book, every time something is not going my way, I just, alas, I am wretched. And that's become my new vocal stem. So I have to give it that. That was really funny of them. That's a really good one. And the book was low key low-key kind of homoerotic, and I really think if Victor and Henry kissed or like held hands, a lot of the problems in this book could have been avoided. Like, I think Henry was the MVP. Henry carried the book to me. He was the most fun, the most interesting character. And rip Henry. I'm sorry, spoilers, the book came out like 200 years ago, so I think that's sorry, but yeah, rip Henry. He was fun. I can't believe they took him out of the movie. That was what stuck with me. I don't remember him being at all in the movie, but like, he was the most important character to me in the book, and then he just wasn't there. It made sense with the changes that they made. I won't spoil the movie. I will spoil the book, because again, it's 200 and what years old, at least like 220, 250 years old. So really, if you haven't read it, that's on you. Sorry. But yeah, it was quite fun. Okay, there were two things though that I was kind of taken aback by. First, the incest. No one told me Frankenstein had incest in it. So this, if you didn't know, the man is in love with his cousin and marries her. Yeah. In the book, if you have seen the movie and not read the book, she's his cousin in the book, and they were raised together as brother and sister. And he's in love with her, and then they get married. They never get to consummate it because she dies. She gets killed. So either right after they consummate, like at their wedding or something. So rip to her. I think her name was Mary. I actually don't remember. But yeah, incest. And also, I know this was the 1800s, and this applies to the incest as well. Obviously, I had different views, and I know this was the 1800s, and there were different views on that, but the random Islamophobia really kind of took me out of it. And every time I've told someone about it, they were like, there's Islamophobia in this book? I'm like, yeah, like, when he's like talking, you know, when he's like, there's the cabin in the woods, and there's the family that's there, and the granddad that like tells stories and how the monster learned how to speak, right? There's the daughter there, and the son is in love with this girl that ends up coming and living with them, and her whole thing is that she's from the Ottoman Empire, and her dad is horrible to her because he's Muslim, and women aren't allowed to be educated or like be anything because they're horrible Muslims. And I just think that like, you could take it out of the book, right, and then nothing would change the plot. So that felt very like gratuitous, weird Islamophobia that was really unnecessary. That was weird, Mary Shelley. Rip to you. I don't think you would have liked the world today, considering the comments in that book. But yeah, apart from, you know, that, it was fun, it was good. I can see why it's a classic. Not for me. I did get bored, and I did get annoyed with Victor Frankenstein, but really, if I don't get annoyed with a man in a book, who would I be? I don't like men, so that's on them, not on me. Anyway, the second book I read, she's in this pile. Soul Searching, Lyla Sage. Now, one thing about me, I do love Lyla Sage. I do love her yeehaw. I fear this might be her worst book so far. And I feel bad because I really enjoy her books usually. I think there's one, not the third book. The fourth book, the one with Dusty, was kind of whatever. It was okay. It wasn't bad. This was mediocre. Like, it was okay. It wasn't terrible, but like, I literally completely forgot about it within 1 week, and I stand by that. I actually do not remember anything. I do remember that it's supposed to be paranormal, but you could take out the paranormal aspect and literally nothing would change because it's that irrelevant to the plot. So the FMC is a photographer who lost her dream job for reasons as of yet unknown. I do remember that. And then she decides to go home and live home for a while because, you know, her life's changing, whatever, like they always do in any romance book. And then she ends up working for the male main character, who is an upholsterer, which is quite a mouthful. And I think he's divorced. I don't actually remember. But yeah, it was unmemorable. It was okay. It was meh. Lyla, usually you serve. This one did not serve, but usually you serve. Please go back to that. Please go back to the cowboys. I need more cowboys and less upholsterers. Is that how you say the word? I don't actually know. Oh, Oh, and then this we get exciting. The next book is Coldwire. She's at the bottom. We'll move the entire pile. Coldwire by Chloe Gong, the first book of the Strange Loom trilogy. And this one I was so excited to read, and I took it with me. I was traveling. I went to Paris. And that book is so good. I am obsessed with it. It put me back into such like a sci-fi mood. There's a lot of sci-fi I'm realizing that I've read this year. Anyway, we follow two main characters who are Arale. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll write it somewhere here. You can tell me how to pronounce it. And Leah. It's like a really interesting futuristic world that's a bit like the Matrix, where you go into that thing and like you sleep and you're like, I think it's called Uptown. Uptown is when you're asleep, or downtown is when you're asleep. I don't actually remember which one. Close enough. You know, one of them, when you're asleep, you're in that parallel universe, and then you can live there, and you come out like once a month, I think, to like make sure your body's still working and everything. I should have turned on the lights, but now I'm committed. So we're just going to work with a weird lighting, and I'll have to edit and post. Oh yeah, Up and Down Country. Confusing wording, but you get used to it, is what I wrote. I did get used to it, and it wasn't confusing once I got into it, but now I don't remember which one's which. But yeah, so one of the girls is an agent that works for the military, and she gets framed and kidnapped by an agitator, while the other is in school trying her best to be valedictorian, but her academic rival kind of gets in the way, and then they are sent on this mission together because they're the two best. So they're sent on like secret mission, the two of them, and they don't really want to be together because, you know, they're rivals, but low-key. Oh yeah, I hated Leah at first, but she grew on me so much. When the book starts making sense, it's one of those where you like you can see there are gears moving and like rotating and stuff, but you don't know exactly what's going on. And then once it clicks, it's like, whoa, and it all makes sense. And I really want to reread the entire thing now that I know where we're going with it, because that was really good. But I can't say too much. I really want to spoil it, but it will make sense, and it's so good, and the characters are so fun, even though I hated Leah a little bit. I really do enjoy when like the end of a book kind of clicks together, and then suddenly everything makes sense, and you're like, oh, this is amazing, I am a genius. This was the feeling I had with this book. So Chloe Gong, man, she's incredible. So this is my first Chloe Gong that I finished, because I tried to read Violent Delights, and listen, really good book, really fun. However, my personal greatest fear, and the thing that, you know, haunts me every night, is the idea of bugs crawling into my skin and like into my ears and stuff. And that book has that. Like there's a big element of the plot about bugs crawling under your skin and into your scalp and stuff, and I just couldn't do it. So I read up to, I saw it yesterday, chapter 12-ish, and then I was like, never mind, and I closed it back and I put it on the shelf. And I know I would really like it because I love the characters, I love the world, and I want to see where it goes, and I know it's going to destroy me emotionally. However, bugs crawling under your skin. And on that note of bugs crawling under your skin, the next book that I read was the really exciting arc that now I have the hard copy, but at the time it wasn't out when I read it. And it is Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher. And one thing about me, Kingfisher is like one of my favorite authors. She's fantastic. She's like so up on my list. She's one of my auto buys. And then when I got approved to read this off of NetGalley, guys, I cried. Like that was the best thing that's ever happened to me, I think. I was so excited. Yeah, my queen. But it was so good. It did have bugs crawling under your skin. I did pull through because thankfully she's not too, I think she's like 300-ish pages, so she's not too thick. I was horrified. My entire skin was crawling, and I did have to take breaks in the middle because I was like, I just can't do this. That is horrifying. So yeah, but that's what I get for reading horror, I guess. Bug horror. Ugh. Yeah, but I found it really reminiscent of her other book, What Moves the Dead. And what's the second one? What Crawls at Night? Something like that. I don't remember what the second and third one are. But that series, I felt like it's very reminiscent. I do think, now that I've talked about it with someone online, one of my mutuals on Instagram was like, oh, she has this formula, right? Where she throws this woman, her main character, who's always a woman, who gets thrown into a random place and has to kind of like deal with stuff that happens around them. And then she's always really funny and really smart. and yeah, like she was, I don't remember her name. Do I have her name? Sonia Wilson. But yeah, it is like the same formula for sure. I do like it. I think it works, and she's funny. So really, it's great. Oh, my camera is about to cut me off. I might get up and turn on the lights while we're at it because it's getting dark in here. Okay, we're back. I turned on the lights. I don't know if you can tell. I think you can tell. I don't remember. I also realized I'm not wearing my glasses, and that's why I'm kind of squinting. Anyway, Sonia Wilson. She is, oh, there we go, scientific illustrator. And then her dad died, and she was getting most of her work through her dad because it's set in 1899. So obviously she's struggling because no one wants to give a woman a job because it's in 1800s. It's America. And why could women ever be capable of doing anything? Like, clearly that's such crazy thoughts. But she really wants a job, and she was working as a teacher, science teacher, and she doesn't want to do that anymore. And then she gets this job with this man called Dr. Halder, and it's to illustrate his research on wolfworms. Already he is a red flag. He is a crusty little old man, by the way. Like, if I call him crusty, he is a crusty little old man. She gets a job. She goes to him. He's an entomologist. And he works, on wolfworms and other parasitic bugs. Ugh. But when she gets there, it's like this little cottage in the middle of the woods. And there's shit that's clearly weird. And her predecessor left stuff, but no one speaks of them. And then there's weird whispers of blood thieves in the woods, and she's like, these people are crazy. And she gets into the small village and everyone is weirdly religious, and she's kind of just there, and she's like, well, they're clearly just crazy. Like, what do you mean blood thieves? They're insane. And you know what, she's so real for that. She honestly, that would be me. I'd be like, what are these people talking about? But she gets there, and then animals starts acting crazy, and there's like shit that goes wrong. And she walks into the woods, and there's like people walking into the woods, and then Dr. Halder walking into the woods in the middle of the night, and then the chickens start going missing. And so she goes into the woods, and there's a shed. Guys, there's a shed that no one has access to, and it's weird. And of course, because she's the protagonist in the book, she decides to investigate, which again, I'm on this one, I can't say that I would do the same, because if I found a shed in the woods and the creepy crusty doctor I was working for goes into the woods at night and then chickens go missing, I don't know about you, but I'm getting the fuck out of there. But she was like, oh, let me see what that is about. So good for her, I guess. But yeah, the ambiance was so good and so creepy. It was delicious. And yeah, I literally wrote about the bugs, and I lost so many nights sleeps about the bugs, because every time I would read this book, because one thing about me, right, I mostly read at night, and I mostly read in my bed with my Kindle, up on the little Kindle arm thing that everyone makes all of my friends made fun of me for, and now they also have them. So I'm an influencer. But that's how I read, and I read until like 3 a.m. and I couldn't sleep because I was convinced that there were things crawling all over me. So thank you, Kingfisher. That was so nice of you. It was a really good book though, so I might forgive her. But yeah, I also really enjoyed, there is a little bit about like, I don't want to say too much because it would be spoilers, but basically the people who work in that house with her for the doctor are an interracial couple, and it's a black woman and a white man, and it kind of addresses the racism of the time in a really good way, and not in a like, this is why we need to talk about it. I feel like sometimes books, like, I don't know how to explain it, like they go into it too strongly instead of weaving it into the story and like not spoon feeding you the information. Like, it does address it, but it's not in like, this is it, like take it. It makes sense and it flows and you still absorb it. And I really liked when she did that. And I feel like, you know, considering the state of America right now, really good time to be talking about these things. So yeah, that was my last book of January. That was Wolfworm. Creepy. And then February, another book. You can't see it because my laptop's in the way. Why is it? It wasn't in the way before. Sorry, you only get to see like part of my book pile. But I was reading Hell of a Witch by Rachel Aaron. It's the second book of the Tear Down Heaven trilogy. Not trilogy, series. It's like 5 books. But yeah, so I read Hell for Hire. Hell for Hire was the first one. Read it last year. Loved it. And then I read Hell of a Witch, which is the second book. And it's 1 month after book 1. Bex and her crew. Bex is like demon leader. I don't want to spoil the first book, so I'm kind of going to be vague with this one. But Bex and her crew are going around freeing demons, making a little team. They're trying to figure out how they're going to attack Gilgamesh up there in heaven and tear down heaven, you know, that's the name of the series. And then Adrian has a little plan to destroy one of the anchors, which is like a market that connects earth and heaven, and that is like the pathway for Gilgamesh to send his people down to kill, you know, everyone who's resisting him. So Adrian is trying to figure out how to do that. I did write, and this is my favorite thing, in the first book at some point, Liz, the desire demon, goes, "Witch of the flesh indeed," because Adrian's a witch of the flesh. And that's all I could think about this entire book. Every time Adrian opened his mouth, I'm like, "Witch of the flesh indeed." And he is. He is hot. I love Adrian. Bex annoyed me a little bit, but she's going through stuff, so I'm gonna give her a pass. Adrian is a simp, so that's why we love him. Anyway, I did think book 1 was better, because this one, the pacing was a tiny bit off, but it was really good, and I did really enjoy it. I do think that I'm going to try an audiobook the third one, because I really loved the audiobook, and I'm thinking that maybe that's why I liked book 1 more. So we're going to have a little bit of we're going to test it. So yeah, that was Hell of a Witch. And then, so I'm kind of like rapid firing because we have so many books to go through. I read, this was an arc. This was an arc that I was really excited to read. Okay, because it was sold to me as inspired by Gideon the Ninth. And like, if you couldn't tell by the fact that Hero and Gideon are on my fucking wall, I really love those books. I think they're so good and life-changing. So I was like, immediately apply, and the cover was gorgeous. And it's These Shattered Spires by Cassidy, Ellis, Salter, which is the first book of a Weirdos trilogy. Now I wrote down I wrote a little abstract. If you want my full review, I think it's only on NetGalley. I don't think I posted the full review, but this is the abstract that I wrote about it. So Four Spires Castle is all that remains in a rotten world. It is home to arcanists. I don't know, guys, English is my third language. And their familiars, whose aim is to keep the decaying sky at bay. But when the king is assassinated, the castle falls to chaos. Tradition dictates the head arcanist, I think it's arcanist, I don't know, of each discipline take part in a bloody fight at the top of the 5th tower, where they will either kill or be killed. Except they do not fight alone. Their familiars are their servants and sources of power, and to them, this fight means certain death. Now, the 4 characters that we have. Nixie is a botanical familiar, and she discovers a loophole, a dangerous and illegal quest to find the 4 cursed keys that may spare her and the other familiars' lives. She allies with familiars from each discipline, Alice, Taro, and Elliot. They can barely tolerate each other, but now their fate lies in their ability to work together. This should have been like so right up my alley, but it wasn't great. The world building, I think, was really lacking, because like the author like kind of expects you to understand what's happening, right? And to an extent, I do like when an author doesn't hold your hand and like spoon feed you information, but you can't just tell me, oh, the sky is rotting. And it's rotting because this thing happened, but you never tell me what that thing, like, what is that thing? You know, what happened? It's just like, oh yeah, this happened, and so this guy's happening, but you don't tell me what. And then there's like a lot of, like, it's never, why are there 4 disciplines? How were these disciplines found? Why is it blood, earth, botany, whatever the four, oh, bones, one of them was the bones ones. But like why can't anyone be a familiar? How do you choose the arcanists? Like, I have so many questions and none of them were answered, and like none of the world building makes sense to me. And this is a thing that I think really annoys me personally, because I like when things make sense, which maybe it's statism, who knows. But I know that in other books, like for example, I hated Caraval because it does this thing where it's like, this is how it is, and then if you don't understand, you don't, like, oh, that's kind of it. You have to accept that, you know, just based on the vibes. And that's not something I can personally get on board with. If you can do that, there's so many metaphors. Like, the writing was okay. The writing, I think it's a debut, and I think it shows that it's a bit of a debut. But there were metaphors like everywhere. Every time there's a shadow, there is a metaphor about that shadow. There was a metaphor about like someone's armpit shadow, and I don't remember what it was, but I thought that was like, why? We don't need that. You can just say, you don't even need to say that there's a shadow in their armpit, you know? Like, I know we explain, like I did say explain things, but like I don't think shadow in the armpits is like important to the plot. And then, okay, yeah, the characters, this is my main beef with the book. Like, everything else I feel like is fine. I could gloss over and be like, you know, it wasn't great, but whatever. But the characters, okay, so Taro, which is the bone familiar, is so clearly a copy of Gideon, except she falls really flat compared to Gideon because she's not quite as funny and she doesn't have that natural charisma that Gideon has. And I don't like that you can tell that, you know, oh, that's Gideon in ninth. And her real name is Tarantino. Why? What was the point? Like, that too, like, why is her real name Tarantino? That needs to be explained to me, because that's crazy. And then Nixie feels like some kind of version of Harrow, except she's really unlikable. There's not a single thing she does that's like, okay. Everyone in this book has a crush on her. Everyone's like, oh my god, Nixie. She is unlikable. She's low-key a bitch. She misgenders her friend and then tells them that, like, oh, you being non-binary is actually really hard on me, so I'm not gonna be your friend anymore. Like, I'm sorry. And you want me to like her? Like, she's one of the main characters? Respectfully, may she burn in hell. I don't like that bitch. And yet everyone is like, oh my god, Nixie. Ugh. Oh, Elliot is fun. There's Elliot. Elliot is the bone familiar. His story is fun. There's plot holes in his arc. They don't really make sense. But, you know, at least he's funny. I will give him that much. And then Alex carried the book. Alex is the stone familiar, and they carried the book. And they were great. But they were the only character I could tolerate. So I think the characters were my main beef. But this is, like, I really think that the book had so much potential, and that the world has so much potential, and the story has so much potential. And it would have been so much stronger had the author trusted themselves a bit more. Because I really think if the characters had been their own characters, and if, for example, Tarantino was allowed to be Tarantino and like a whole character into herself without any link to Gideon and without like trying to be Gideon, she could have been an incredible character. She could have been fun. She could have been funny. And like, even Nixie, like, yes, she's a bitch, but like, at least she could have felt like her own. And I think that's what's really lacking. So maybe in the future, this author is going to be able to build and like make them into fully fledged people. And that would be really fun to see. But I do think that's what irked me in this book specifically. So yeah, and maybe a bit more time spent on the world building and a bit less time describing shadows would be good. Not gonna lie. Also, yeah, the ending really pissed me off. I'm gonna spoil it. If you don't want, like, skip 30 seconds, I'm really gonna go fast. But basically, in the end, they put like a bunch of mirrors into a corpse to revive the corpse because a creepy girl in the mirror is telling them to do that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know at what world you thought that was gonna end well. Like, there is literally no version where putting mirrors in the mouth of a corpse and like reviving the corpse because the creepy child in the mirror told you to do that was gonna end well. Like, it's so clearly a setup. And they still did it. And none of them was like, that's kind of weird. Be so for real. Anyway, that was These Shattered Spires. After that, another book that, you know, I kind of have beef with. So I read two like pretty bad books back to back, I'm not gonna lie. This was The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. And again, I had high hopes. I need to stop going into books with high hopes, I think is what's happening. But this book, the only reason I picked it up is what I thought it was going to be a quick read, and it had cannibalism. And I kind of wanted to read about cannibalism for some reason. It was the mood. But yeah, so Imar Castle has been under siege. Resources are running low. Fuzine, who is like a retired nun / crazy scientist, is put in charge of like making a miracle happen and producing food out of thin air, because she made water out of thin air. No, she purified the water. My camera's about to cut off again. She purified the water, and that was like a miracle. So the king is like, well, you can produce food out of nothing then. You're magic. She's not. So she's kind of panicking about it. And then we follow Sir Vaughn, who's also... There's 3 characters that we follow. Forgot to say that. Multiple POV. Sir Vaughn is a war hero, and she's put in charge of like making sure Fozine is producing whatever magic she has to produce. And then Trela is just kind of there. And she's like a servant, but she's not a servant. And she has this weird revenge arc with Sir Vaughn. So, yeah. And then randomly, after Fozine does something, the lady, which is their version of God, and her saints walk in. They're just there, corporeal. And they walk in. And from the second they walk in, things go weird. And a lot of things go weird. And, okay, so I acknowledge that this book is supposed to be weird, right? Like that was the whole point. It's supposed to be a horror that like unsettles you, and that's like everything is kind of icky and weird. However, literally nothing made sense. Literally nothing made sense except for the cannibalism. And that is not a sentence I ever thought I was going to utter and be like, cannibalism was the one thing that pulled this book together. Crazy to say. And yeah, that's where we were at. Like, there's so weird. And there were so many bees. The lady, that's her name, has like a thing with bees, and the nuns keep bees. But like, there was no need to have that many bees. And people keep on like dying and coming back to life. So you never really know if like someone is dead or like not dead. And they're like, there's a person in the dark. It's like a creepy thing in the dark. And they really give me the vibes. If you've watched Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, you know those like creepy eye things like in the dark that like take the power when you get to the doors to do like your alchemy? That's the vibes that they gave to me. Like, that's how they were acting to me. So that's all I could think about. But like, they're never explained. They're just there. They're just like in the dark, and they randomly bite people's fingers off. Why? Don't know. Oh, the girlies, it was sapphic, which we love sapphic. We love lesbians in this household. But they kept kissing each other behind each other's backs. And like, I know it may not be obvious by, again, heroin getting on my wall, but one of my favorite subgenres is toxic lesbians. Like, you know, Burial Bones, Gideon, like, they're great. I just don't approve of like cheating. I'm like, is it really cheating? Is you're just like randomly kissing each other? But like, there were feelings behind it, but like, they were kissing each other behind the other's back. Like, it was weird trio vibes. I did not like them. And also, everyone in this book is like so turned on by cannibalism, and like everyone has had a taste of human flesh at some point, like before this moment. And I find this really like I have never lived in the medieval times, right? And this is kind of medieval-y, right? I don't think people were just like walking around and randomly chomping on each other. I feel like that's kind of crazy, quite honestly. And they were giving me like the vibes, like the Until Dawn Wendigos is how I saw these people. So, oh, it was weird. It was weird. It was not fun. I did not like it. So that was The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. Oh, after that, here we go. Now this is where it gets fun. After that, I was like, I need something that's just gonna hit the spot. And I was on the phone with Emma. Emma, if you're watching this, hi. But I was playing Baldur's Gate with Emma, and I was like, she's Ghostly Peach on Instagram, by the way. But I was like, I need something stupid. What should I read? And she was like, I don't know. And then I looked up like a random romance website. And one of the books that they recommended was The Rogue Not Taken by Sarah MacLean. And I just found the name so silly. Like, what do you mean, The Rogue Not Taken? Of course I'm going to read that. That sounds hilarious. And I expected it to be like a bad historical romance, right? Guys, it was so good. I obsessed. It's from the Scandal and Scoundrel series, and she has like multiple historical like romance series. Obsessed with her. The Sarah MacLean verse, I'm gonna be reading all of them. But anyway, Sophie, or FMC, is the normal Talbot sister, aka she's the only girl out of her sisters, I think there are like 6 sisters, who doesn't revel in scandal. All of her sisters love being the center of the attention. The ton hates them. They're really dramatic. They're always in a scandal. But when Sophie is like at a party, she catches her brother-in-law kissing someone else who isn't her sister, and she's like, what the fuck, you're cheating on my sister? And he is like, you can't do anything, I'm like a duke or something. I don't actually know if he's a duke. I think he's a duke. He's like some important, I don't know, something, some nobility. And naturally, again, because she's a girl's girl, she pushes that bitch into a pond with a bunch of fish. So he ends up in a pond in front of everyone. The entire ton sees him in the pond and sees her pushing him into the pond. He loses his mind and he's like, how dare you? I'm gonna destroy you and your family. I'm gonna kill you. Even though he's technically part of the family, but I guess he isn't anymore because he kissed someone else. I don't know what his logic was, but yeah. So that's a scandal. And then Sophie doing the only sensible thing she could have done is run out of the party, dress up as a footman, climb on the back of some random man's carriage and hope that the carriage is going north because she wants to go north. She wants to leave London, fuck the ton, fuck nobility. She wants to go north. She wants to marry the baker's son that she knew when she was a kid. And then she's going to open the library and she's never going to talk to anyone again. Which, low-key, if I was in her situation, I can't say that I would have handled it better than that. Except the man who is in the carriage, right? His name is Kingsley King. And he is a notorious rogue / rake, and everyone very, very scandalous. He is the Marquess of Eversley. If anyone can tell me what the fuck a Marquess is, I would really appreciate it, because I thought that was like a marquis, but I don't think that's actually the same thing. So he is whatever Marquess is. I don't know, and he's been summoned back home up north because his dad, who he is estranged from because he hates his dad, is supposedly dying. So he's like hauling ass back up towards, he lived like next to the Scottish border or something. And King is basically Simon from season 1 of Bridgerton. I haven't read the books, but he is like Simon from season 1 of Bridgerton, except he actually has a personality and he doesn't lie about not being able to produce heirs and then have a really weird non-consensual relationship with Daphne. That was really weird. He is basically like Simon. He doesn't want kids because like his line ends with him is what he said, and I was like, oh no, here we go. But he handled it all better than Simon. But his line ends with him. His dad is an asshole. His dad like supposedly killed his first love. It's a whole thing. It's explained later. I'm not gonna spoil it. You should read the book. But yeah, he finds out who she is like halfway through the trip, and he's like, what are you doing here? Why are you trying to get in a scandal with me? You're trying to make me marry you because you want my title. And she's like, I don't, fuck off. She's really like, why would I ever want to marry you? You're a piece of shit. And he's like, I know what you are. And that's basically their entire relationship. Like, he's convinced she's really trying to get him to marry her. And then she can't stand his ass and is just trying to get north. So that's the whole thing. And then they have to pretend that they're married. Sophie gets shot. There's like a bunch of horses. The sisters are so much fun. Like the Talbot sisters. I'm going to read every single book of Sarah MacLean's just because I want to read all of them. Like every single one of those girls. I want her book. So much drama. Oh my God. But anyway, that was such a fun book. And that was The Rogue Not Taken by Sarah MacLean. I love me some Bodice Ripper. Like they're so much fun. Anyway, after my Bodice Ripper, in March starting here, I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab, which I feel like doesn't really need an introduction. Like if you don't know V.E. Schwab, I don't know what rock you've been living under. And honestly, Vicious, I think is like one of her biggest books. But to sum it up like really briefly, Victor and Eli, they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Oh my
God, they were roommates.
And then they decided to pull off some experiments to become EOs, which are extraordinaries, which is people with magical powers unlocked when they come close to death. So they do that. Shit happens. Shit hits the fan. Victor is sent to prison. He spends 10 years there and then he escapes. And obviously the only thing he wants to do is get revenge on Eli, who is now a superhero, like some kind. And he is an extraordinary. But he is also hunting all the other extraordinaries because they are mistakes and God would never make people like that. And like, obviously they think they are God, but like, I know God and they all need to die is basically Eli. So yeah, there's found family. There's a lot of vengeance. I don't want to say too much more. Honestly, you should just read it. It's fun. It's short. It's great. But yeah, that was Vicious by V. Schwab. I'm going to be waiting for Vengeful to come out before I read the second one. No, Victorious is the third one. Vengeful is the second one. I'm going to be waiting for that. After Vicious, I went back to another Bodice ripper and I read the second Scandal and Scoundrel, which is A Scot in the Dark, obviously by Sarah MacLean. And yeah, so in the first book, the Marquess has a best friend who is this random Scotsman who is like huge and everyone is calling him a beast because he's like big and a Scot. How could he? So silly. But Alec, he is like the Scotsman. He is the Duke of Warwick and he hates the English, you know, as one does truly. So he hates the English. He's Scottish. He's huge. He's up there. He got his title without really wanting it. He's like the 17th in line and then all 17 of them dies like right before him and then he randomly becomes Duke. And yeah, that's him. And then Lily is our girl. She has been kept in a gilded cage because she is the ward to the Duke of Warwick. And she's been for years, but like since all of the dukes have been dying, she has kind of been left with no supervision. And no one told Alec that, you know, there's this girl that's your ward. No one told him. So she's, you know, doing her thing in London. She wants to be loved. She wants companionship. She falls in love with like this dubious artist who convinces her to pose naked for her. This is like Regency era, so obviously like, oh my god, an unmarried woman is posing naked for a painting. How could she have control of her own body? So, you know, and then he's like, oh, I'll keep it for myself. I won't show anyone. She's like, sure, I'll do it. And then she does it. And then lo and behold, he was a piece of shit. He decides to put her painting of her naked in a big exhibition that he's doing because he's such a good artist. And now she is a scandal of the town because she's unmarried and naked in a portrait. So this is when Alec is like, wait a minute, I have a ward? Why has no one told me? And then he moves like all the way back. He comes down from Scotland to help her and like to fix the scandal. Obviously, they hate each other because why would they ever like each other? And yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun. I do think Rogue Not Taken was funnier, but this was also really fun. And Alec, so this, I was reading this right when Varka came out on Genshin, and Varka and Alec gives me Varka vibes. So that's all I'm saying for you. If you like Varka, if you're like me and you are a Varka girly, maybe give this a chance. I will say the third book in the series of Scandal and Scoundrel is about the piece of shit from book 1 who cheated on his wife, and it's a second chance romance. I don't want to read about that. He cheated on her. I don't care. There's no second chance. Throw him in the trash. He's just a man. Hit him with your car. Anyway, so that was A Scot in the Dark. I'm gonna read every other Sarah MacLean book, but I'm not gonna read that second chance one. After that, sci-fi again. I read The Fractured Dark by Megan E. O'Keefe, which is the second book in the Devoured World series. Again, I'm not going to say too much about the plot because I don't want to spoil Blighted Stars, which you should 100% read. Blighted Stars, it's so good. So this is the second book, also really good. I do think this one, the pacing was a little bit off. The first one had better pacing, but it was still incredible. The characters are so much fun. Cannot wait to read book 3. But basically, Naira and Tarquin are still fighting the stupid shrooms that control your mind, because one thing about me, it's either bugs under your skin or creepy mushrooms that control people. How I have ended up reading books mostly about these two things, I don't know. But yeah, but instead of it being like on a planet with a bunch of zombies hunting them down, now it's political and it's huge and it involves the entire universe. This book had me so stressed. Like, genuinely, I was so stressed. I don't know why, but I was so stressed. I am scared about book 3. Cannot wait. I'm gonna read it, but I'm gonna be scared about it. And then finally, final book out of our 12 books. She's here. You can see her. And I read Two Can Play by Miss Ali Hazelwood. And yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic Ali book. It's this misunderstanding that they think like the other is not interested in them, but like obviously they both have a crush on each other. So yeah, Viola really wants to go and like make a game about her favorite books. They're both game developers. She wants to make the game adaptation, and then he wants to make the game adaptation, but both of their studios are indie and too small to work on their own, so they have to like team up, except that they hate each other because there's like this weird rivalry between studios, as what happens. And then they're sent on a ski like retreat to bond. Like, both teams are just like flown out into, they're driven out, they drive out to be like on a ski retreat. And then she has a huge crush on him, Jesse, but she thinks that he hates her because he's being kind of cold to her. But obviously it's a misunderstanding and there's a whole thing. But yeah, it's an Ali book. It's fun, it's great, good time, short and fun, not groundbreaking, but great. That was all of the books that I read since January. Well, not all of the books. I've read one more book, but that's going to be for next roundup, which may be in 2 months. Who knows? It's not going to be at the end of April, let me tell you that much. I so far have read one book in April. 1.5 books. I'm reading my really exciting Veronica Roth arc, which is taking me a while, but she's really fun. I'm really enjoying it. And I read Ninth House, which can't believe I hadn't read her yet, but I did read her. And I won't spoil it. I won't tell you. You'll have to come back and tune back in a couple months. I think I'm gonna keep these quarterly. I feel like they're more fun because otherwise I tend to ramble, and I ramble enough already. So I feel like having to go through quite a few books keeps me going fast and not too boring. And I also prefer like long form content, so gonna be making long form for you. That's my book update. Next time you'll see me, I'll officially be a graduate. I'll officially have a master's degree. Not to flex. And now I can go back to regretting every single one of my life choices while looking for a job. Isn't that so fun and so great? But yeah, anyway, I hope you had fun. I surely had fun. I have missed this. I've missed just like rambling about my books. And yeah, I had this urge to do it today. I was like, it has to be today because otherwise I'm gonna keep forgetting. I don't remember where I was in my head, in my train of thoughts. Oh, I did. Okay, because I've talked about this here before I leave, before I let you go, and for you from the store mind up listening to me talk for like 2 hours. I had been talking about like reading a bunch of books, and I wanted to do a video about reading my historical romances. So when I started reading Scot in the Dark, I tried to make like a read along, but I fear I'm not built for read alongs, even though I really like, I love that format, and maybe I'll be able to make it work eventually. But I mostly read at like 3 a.m. like a gremlin in my bed, and I don't really want that to be on camera. Respectfully, like putting that on the internet is kind of wild. So I don't know if that format's ever gonna work for me. I don't know, but I am thinking of like doing kind of like video recaps like this. I don't know about like fully read-alongs, but maybe something more with this format, but kind of like a read-along. I don't know. If anyone has ideas, you can send them my way. I don't know who watches this, but you can send them my way. I think that's all I have to say. I'm pretty sure. So I will see you next time. I will hopefully have a bunch of fun books. Maybe if I manage to get my shit together, I'll have a video before then that is a bit different and not just what I've been reading. Hopefully, maybe, who knows. I hope you had a great time watching Asterion. Asterion just staring at you this whole time. And yeah, I'm gonna go. You know what I should be doing? I should be checking on my Tomodachi Island. I am obsessed. Do you want to know the tea of my Tomodachi Island before I leave really quickly? On my Tomodachi Island, I'm dating Zuko. And then Matt Mercer is in love with Copia, you know, Pope Emeritus IV from the band Ghost. Yeah, Matt Mercer fell head over heels for him. And then Asterion has a crush on Matt Mercer, which I think is really funny. So Asterion has a crush on Matt Mercer has a crush on Copia. Copia doesn't care about anyone. I have a Gideon and Harrow. Gideon had a crush on Harrow, got over it, and then immediately after that, Harrow had a crush on Gideon, and now they're not interested. And Matt Mercer is desperately trying to be friends with Levi from Attack on Titans. And Levi could not care less about Matt Mercer. Levi is really good friends with Harrow, which makes sense. Oh, and Little Simsy's there. I'm friends with Little Simsy. That's my Tomodachi recap. I feel like I should just do like a whole video just me talking about the Tomodachi. Like, I know it's not book related, but like the stuff that's been going on there. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, now I'm actually gonna shut up. I will see you next time. I'm gonna stop boring you with my little me's. And yeah, I hope to see you next time. If you did enjoy this, please leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you're feeling spicy, and I will see you eventually. Hopefully soon. Yeah. Goodbye.